36 hours warning on how we were going to handle the final exam. That was just right around the corner. And I gave the students the option either to take an in-class exam on Zoom or to let their existing exam grades carry over to the calculation for their final exam. And well, this particular class had bombed the first exam. So about 3/4 of the class ended up taking the Zoom version of the exam. And here's how this worked. Let me see if I can share my screen with you a little bit. Let me see. Are you seeing a Word document?
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not, but that's good you can see it. First of all, I should tell you about my students. My students are calculus-based STEM students who've been in 20 weeks of physics by this point. So that means that they have high access to technology generally.
Now would be a good time to come down for lunch and start working on homework dudes.
Thank you, Theodore.
Well, that wasn't me. I don't have any kids here.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So these students are also very technologically literate, which if I were teaching a general science class or a physics 101 class, I might not do this the same way. In fact, I probably wouldn't do this the same way. The way this worked is that all students who were going to take this in-class final, they met on Zoom. The official starting time was 5 minutes before the exam time was supposed to start, so we had about 5 minutes to all meet and greet. And then during that 5-minute window, I emailed students a PDF version and a Word document version of the exam. I sent both versions because most people can open up PDFs without any sort of distortions happening. Some students wanted a Word version. Some students took time to print out the exam. Most of them just worked on the exam from the screen. I let them do either. I watched them on Zoom while they were taking the exam in order to minimize cheating and also to allow students to ask me questions if they had questions. Actually, importantly, give them the ability to ask me questions if they had questions in the middle of the exam. Now, one of the problems with using laptops with webcams is I really can't see what the student is doing on either their work or on their computer screen. So if you are super concerned about cheating, this might not be the best way to worry about, the best way to administer this type of exam, but we can talk about that afterward. After, I think it was a 2-hour exam, the students then, while still on the camera, photographed their exams using either their cell phones. A couple students had scanners. In the document that I emailed everyone, you can see a couple good examples of software you can download on your cell phone to be able to make PDFs and send them to someone. And then they emailed me the copy of their exam. And they stayed on the cam until in Zoom, until I told them that they got their email so that they knew that I had received the exam. Okay, now, I had students email me the exam, which I knew was a poor choice because trying to grade 55 emailed exams is a lot of work. So what I knew I should have done, and I don't know why I didn't do it, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to stop sharing, is use software called, using a web service called Gradescope. Now, I'm real curious, how many people have used okay, if you've used Gradescope before, put your thumb up. If you've heard of Gradescope but haven't used it, put your thumb out. And if you've never heard of Gradescope, put your thumb down. Okay, most people haven't even heard of it. Some people have. The way Gradescope works is, okay, once again, I'm going to try to share another screen with you. Let's find a webpage. Gradescope, first of all, is free to the first 5 instructors on their campus who use it, and it's free for the rest of your life, or at least the rest of Gradescope's life. And the way Gradescope works is that students log on to Gradescope. You've already gotten them into your class on Gradescope. There'll be a roster that tells you everyone who is enrolled. You can see that Tony and Theodore here have both enrolled into the class. And then you don't give them the homework on Gradescope. Usually the homework is, these days it would be emailed to them or it'd be something out of their textbook. But students take their work and then scan it in to Gradescope. And when you get the information, let's see if I can find an assignment. Here's a practice exam. What happens is, as the students scan in the homework, they tell the software where problem 1, problem 2, and problem 3, and all your problems are. And then when you have 55 of these, you can click into problem 1, and you can go through and grade everyone's problem 1. Now, Tony, thank you, Tony, for doing this. You did this on purpose. Purposely scan things in sideways. If a student does that, don't worry, you can just flip the assignment around. And then, as you're grading, you can begin to keep a scoring rubric on how you graded all the past people. If a person is correct, you just click the correct button, and it gives them a grade. And then you can go to the next ungraded one, which I didn't have, which my next one was a scanned in page from The Economist, which isn't quite what we want. If a student makes a mistake, then, let's go to the next ungraded. Then, if a student makes a mistake, sorry, let's go back to the practice exam. Then what you can do is you can say what the mistake was. You could say this student didn't get DQ correct, and you could put in more explanation. And at the end of all the grading for that problem, you now have not just all the homeworks graded, but you also have a list of all the types of mistakes that students made and how many students made a mistake in each of each type. And for me, that's really interesting. Okay, I was playing with this too much. It's really interesting to be able to keep track of what sorts of qualitative problems did students have in this particular type of question, so that I can adjust my instruction later to better match what's happening. Students get to see all their grades. You could either release the grades after you have graded everything, or you can release them instantly so students can see what's happening as you're grading. And this makes grading so much easier than having PDF documents graded to you, is what I've learned from personal experience. Okay, so that's my quick presentation. Any questions, ideas, thoughts?
Greg, that's very similar to what I did in Blackboard. Instead of having the students email me, I made the test available as an item in Blackboard, and then I had the students upload their work. Either they took pictures of their, if they took pictures of their work, or if they, some of the students took the PDF, and they have an app called Notability where they can write directly on a PDF, and they submitted that as a PDF. I had students who, I had a student who took all of his pictures, put them into a Google Doc, and had the Google Doc turn that into a PDF, which was really awesome, actually. That was really nice. I have found it was very challenging to grade the ones where the students submitted 8 pictures of their exam work.
So many course management systems have systems like this. Moodle, which is what our school uses, doesn't, to the best of my knowledge, but there's probably some you can integrate into Moodle in some way. So I would encourage you to look at that.
Greg, Moodle does have that. It does it actually automatically. Every file gets put into a PDF automatically when it's handed in. I did this yesterday with a little test dummy, and 2 files were connected and automatically put into a PDF that were handed in.
But I think what I discovered happened is you couldn't select the areas where this is problem 1 was and problem 2 was. The students couldn't do that, which would make grading a little bit harder.
Okay.
Greg, I saw you had an annotation symbol. Could you write directly on a PDF?
So yes, you can write directly on a PDF. You can type, you can write, you could do either.
Okay, good.
And if you don't have a touch screen, man, if you can get your hands on a touch screen before you need to grade a final, it's going to make your life a lot better, I think. John's asked that that Gradescope is free to the first 5 from the college. It turns out if you're instructor number 6 or beyond, the first 6 months are free.
What about the students? Is it free for them totally?
Free for the students. The students, in the email that many of you received from me, it'll give you student instructions on how to upload everything.
Okay.
I think I missed something. You said you could write on the screen. All right, is that? I didn't see the write on the screen part when you were doing the demonstration.
So the way, let's go here. Oh, okay, I need to be able to share with you again. And let's see if I can share the grade submission. Okay, by writing on the screen, what I meant is you can add specific comments to the student. To actually write on the screen itself, yeah, we can do this too. You can click this button, and if you have a touch screen.
That would be better with the touch screen, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
A touch screen, I discovered, is going to make life easier for us, I think.
I had a, a comment about using Zoom. I think a lot of these things, it's more of a placebo effect. You know, the students think they're being watched and you kind of hope that they're doing the right thing because of it. I've done a couple of exams using Zoom, and Zoom doesn't actually, like you mentioned, see what's on their computer or lock their browser or anything like that. In fact, I didn't even know. I could have had my student sitting in front of their computer for an hour on Zoom, and their buddy could have been in the room next door, logged into their email account doing the exam and emailing it to me. So that's one drawback there. I will probably use, we use Canvas, and it has Proctorio built into it, and I'll probably use that because I can send the exam in Canvas and then it locks their browser and they have to use that. And of course, because I had no control over what they were doing, I just told everybody it was an open book, open notes test, because how do you know, at that point you might as well just make the playing field even for everybody. And then just write it with that in mind. But I did have a question about Gradescope. They have these different levels. It sounds like you're happy with the lowest level. That's the free version.
I'm using the free version, lowest level, and I've been fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, and Frank, to talk about the cheating a little bit, I did have one student who claimed to me himself that he was worried that he was going to cheat. And what he did is he set a secondary camera up so that I could see him and his screen. You know, and I couldn't see details on the screen because, you know, the entire class would be able to see it, but I could see that he was clearly looking at the exam. And that made him happier. And if we were super concerned about cheating, trying to arrange this so that there's a side view might be a solution. And there is a place you can go where anyone can turn their cell phone into a webcam that they can plug into their computer.
Oh, I was going to say, I told my students if their laptop didn't have one to log into Zoom with their cell phone. But my son is a college student, my nephew is a college student. They both had to use systems that required webcams recently, they told me. So I think it's expected for a lot of students.
And again, for my calculus-based physics students, they all have laptops with webcams built in. I've pulled the entire class. That's not going to be true necessarily for all classes in all places.
Hey, Greg, could you say something a bit about that app you just mentioned where they can turn their cell phone into a webcam, and then they're sure to go out over the web and not use their data plan? Is that correct?
So Heather has just added to the chat group a link to the place where you can turn your cell phone into a document cam.
I was wondering what people's thoughts were. I mean, I teach at a community college, and some of my students are doing okay with tech. Some are having issues coming to the meets, which is fine because I record them. But if we're asking them to do a synchronous test where they all have to be there at that time, given all the stress they have with losing jobs, trying to get another job, trying to get to work. I have a student whose computer broke. He had to go get it fixed. I mean, how fair is it to make them take a synchronous test?
Okay, so this is where I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit for 1 minute, then we should go to the next person. But you know, I, like many others, I think have big concerns about the role of timed tests as a way to assess our students. A time test assesses one type of learning and not all types of learning, and should we be honoring that type of learning? Is that the best type of learning to honor? Man, I don't know. I think what we're going to learn during this hopefully next 10 weeks of giving tests in this way is we're going to learn what else have people done and what else worked well. And in your case, where you might have a class where half the class has tons of tech and the other half has none, you're going to have to really learn how to balance people who have versus people who don't have and how we teach them.
I think I may have a similar issue. Some of our students raised they don't have access to internet. They're having issues with upload, download. So what I did was I gave them take home, and they can just take a picture and upload it to Blackboard in like an assignment format, and take that and create it using I have a digital pen on iPad Pro. So I have made it, but to just that, I randomize the questions on Blackboard, quizzes and so on. But I have made my exams to be all take home because our system also decided that it gives them an option for pass fail and transfer. So just to lift that and the stress, I just made all exams to be take home and wrote down that you are expected to do independently and all those things we write down. I have no, but I just want to do the work and submit it. So far, it's really not different from what I used to give exam in class. If a few are there that are different.
Thank you, Negusi. We are going to go to our next speaker, Karim. Karim,
Yep. Okay.
taking over, Karim.
Okay. So in my case, our college had signed a contract with Honorlock, and right at the beginning of the change. So when we went online, they told us that they were going to have it. By the time I postponed my test about a week, and then what happens is that we are getting tokens from the college. So every student receives a little token, which is basically a code which gives them access to the Honorlock, so they don't have to pay for it. The test itself, I set it up on Canvas. And so I used all the different forms of questions, including randomized questions, multiple choice, matching questions, different things like that. And the way I set it up is I gave them 24 hours to complete the test. So they had a window from Monday morning to Tuesday morning to get it done. And I noticed many of them did it at like 2 in the morning. I think that was the peak time for test taking. And then the test itself was 3 hours long. But I mean, usually in class I have 2 hours and 45 minutes, so I wrote it off to 3. it'd be easier this way. Now, the way it works on Honorlock is that the system, they have to have a webcam. So I had 1 or 2 issues with the webcam, but otherwise most of my students had them. Whether it's the college, I mean the calculus base, or even the gen ed course that I have, I think I had like 94 students. I may have had 1 or 2 issues with the webcam, so that's about it. So they have to have a webcam and a mic, and then the system, once they're in, will lock their browser. They can't get anywhere else. You can whitelist some sites, like for instance, in my case, for my second semester physics, I have them use some website to solve the system of 3 equations, 3 unknowns for Kirchhoff's loop rule, stuff like that, because I think it's not really fun to do it by hand anymore. So they could get to that site and use it. But then they had to, within Honorlock, they had to get a 360 view of their room, so that it's actually not a person. I found out initially I was mistaken. I thought it was a proctor. Turns out it's some sort of software that will flag them. They call it intelligence, artificial intelligence, which I doubt. But eventually, apparently, if their behavior in front of the camera can trigger some what they call violations. And if they get a trigger like that, then a human can come in, and there's a person on the chat that can help them if there's an issue, that sort of thing. But anyway, so my problem was, because it was going to be that way, I didn't want them to use the phone during the test. So I also wanted them to show me their handwritten solutions, which was going to be a problem. So what I did is I set up a separate test on Canvas, which was not with Honorlock. And on that test, all they had to do is upload the written questions by taking a scan and uploading that. So I recommended that they would use a scanner as opposed to taking pictures, because file size is very different if you use a scanner. It's about 50% smaller than a regular JPEG or GIF file, so depending on which format. Some of them had never heard of that, so it was a discovery. So it's part of the learning process, I guess. My biggest problem was that I wanted them to have, so I can get something like Gradescope where I can have 1 question at a time. I asked them to scan each problem separately, and many of them just scan the whole thing. And so I've got the same file in every problem, where I wanted to do the opposite of that. So maybe I'll have to look into this Gradescope. It looks like it's a nice option for that. But the other thing I got is, when the process was over, I can go back on the Honorlock site, and I get a complete video recording of what they've done. So if I want to, if I'm tired of Netflix, I can switch over that and watch every student taking 3-hour tests in front of the camera. And there's some interesting behavior. Some of them are talking to the camera, and that triggers actual violation, because I see a little red comment that says, oh, violation at such and such minutes. So I can zoom, I can jump to it, and I can see what happened. All they were doing is just like, scratching their head or looking down. And the problem, though, is that the angle of the camera is not so good. So you see them, and you don't kind of see everything that they're doing. You also see their screen. So the screen, you get 2 views. One is the screen that the student is looking at, and also you see the student. But beyond that, it's kind of limited. So I have to guess that it's probably not a big deal. But anyway, just so that you know. And so now, after this, I think I'm going to try it again. The only problem is that we are done in about 4 weeks. At the end of April, that's the end of the spring. And I'm not sure if we're going to get tokens again for the summer session, which is a concern, because I usually have like 4 tests during the semester. And so if they have to pay for those tests, it can add up to the cost. So I'm not sure if I want to do that again. But I don't know. I have 4 weeks to think about it before I make any decision. Let me see. So what else I was going to say about that? Pretty much it. As far the Honorlock, I was kind of concerned at the beginning. Turned out to be fairly easy to work, because it's completely integrated within Canvas. I didn't have to do anything special. Once I have the class, the test set up, I go into I have one of these things that you get on Canvas on the left-hand side, the applications. So Honorlock is activated. I click on it. I see all the tests that I have on Canvas. I select the one that I want enabled for Honorlock, and once I click on that, it's set up and ready to go. Okay. I think that's about all I was going to say. Let me see what else is in my notes here. That's about it. I had 1 or 2 students have some problems with those tokens. They turned out to be expired. because I had a 24-hour period, it was not a big deal. And also in some cases, I just simply extended the deadline to another day. So I give them one. I had one student where there was a mess up in the setup of the problem of the test. So I just recreated another test and gave her another 24-hour period to do the test anyway. So everybody's locked up at home. So I know they can talk to each other through, through chatting. But I had the problems, even the ones that I asked them to work on paper. I had them randomized using Canvas. You can have a question bank. And so I had, for instance, one of my questions was to draw a free body diagram. So I had 4 different problems where they had to draw a free body diagram. So they would randomly get one of those. And so hopefully only 25% of the class gets the same free body diagram that they had to draw. So there's a bit of randomness there. Maybe if I had time, I could have maybe 20, 30, 50 free body diagram questions. And this would be completely randomized, but I didn't have time for that. So anyway, that's what I've done. Any questions? I didn't have any problem with access to the internet. Nobody seemed to have complained about it. I was a little worried that maybe some of them would have problems, but as far as my classes anyways, I'm talking about 90-some students there.
How many of you have access to this type of proctoring like Kareem has in Canvas? If you have that access to that, put your hand up. If you don't, wow, okay, about 30% or 20% of you maybe, not many.
Yeah. But I think you mean the honor lock thing?
Yes.
Yeah, but I think that the college signed a contract about 3 weeks ago because we used to have it only for, I forget what the restriction, I think for some of the disabled students and some other groups, they could use honor lock because I think they had tried proctor. That's another company, but it was more expensive. Honor lock is cheaper. I think it's about $10 to $12 per exam, but still adds up if you have 4 or 5 exams in a course, and if you have 3 or 4 courses, that's a lot of money. So it was a limited use, and then for this particular situation, they extended that to everybody on campus. So I'm not sure how much your college is going to be paying for, but that's what we have so far.
Questions for Kareem? All right, Kareem, maybe there'll be more questions later.
Okay.
Andrew.
I'm here.
Hi, Andrew.
Hello, how are you all doing? Well, thank you again for everybody coming here to this gathering of minds and mitigating the issues they have to deal with for the coronavirus crisis at the moment. So let me go over and just sort of data dump a few things into the chat box here. All right, so regarding exams being done online, there's some general philosophies. The first one is oversight, use of external tools to monitor and prevent cheating and to maintain testing integrity. The second one is trust, but mitigate, use of an honor system with no oversight, but integrate multiple methods to thwart various cheating attempts. Number 3 is to use both of them, and number 4 is to use none of them. And so let me discuss number 1 first. And Kareem talked a lot about honor lock. I will discuss some of my experience with proctor. And with proctor, I used it a couple of years ago. Our distance learning center actually had a contract to pay for free use for us to use, the instructors to use. And I was teaching a live physics class at the time. And I thought, well, I'll just try to outsource proctoring because I have 5 exams during the course of a semester. And rather than lose 5 lecture hours, like, why don't I just have the students take the exams online somewhere else and someone else is watching them and I can recapture my lecture time with my students. So that's what I ended up doing. And the students needed a webcam. The students installed some extension in their browser. I scheduled with the company an exam window, like, Saturday on May 1st, here's an exam between 11 and 1 o'clock, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The webcam is used by the company to watch over the students as they take the exam live. And I also send them my list of protocols of what the students should or should not be able to do during the exam. and the company sends me reports of any violations of the exam protocols, using cell phone or talking to people and stuff. And I can just go over the violation list and see for myself if there was actually a true violation or it was not. Based on my experience, that one semester, it worked fine. There were no major complaints. But again, it is webcam dependent. So, and as we had sort of talked about last week, issues regarding webcam is they don't want to buy it, or they don't know how to install it and use it, or they don't have the money for it, or they're just camera shy, or in fact, it may not even be available now because everything's marked up so much that, you can't just easily just get something on Amazon anymore without paying, out the door with so much for just one simple Logitech cam. So that is the nature of oversight. Then there's trust but mitigate. So let me copy and paste that here. Ooh, I don't think it'll allow me to paste that much here. So I'll do it in two parts. So here's the first part. So this is the one I use predominantly. And as I was making this presentation, I also started to incorporate everybody else's comments as well. So it's getting bigger and bigger based on what everybody's been saying here. So thank you very much for adding to this behemoth there. Social engineering with contracts, syllabus, exam protocols, sign this or you agree to that. The shaming of people to do the right thing. I use primarily an electronic assessment system, Pearson's mastering system. If you haven't heard of it, it's a mastering physics that I use for my classes. It comes with a textbook if you can buy with it. And the grading is done automatically through the system for the most part, where there's true, false, multiple choice, numerical response. Sometimes I ask essay questions, and I grade that manually. So those are the type of questions that I ask. Now for mitigation and stuff, I use the publisher's test bank, and I pool a bunch of questions together, and the system basically draws 10 or 20 of them randomly and asks them. I randomize the variables, the numbers in the exam. I randomize the order of the questions in the exam. Some systems, and Pearson does have, but I haven't really employed it, randomizes the objects or pronouns or verbs. For example, one question might be, Sarah tosses a ball, but you can randomize it to be Charlie hurls a hammer, all right? And it's hard to do a search if you keep on randomizing those various words. I make my own questions and I just put them in there, and so that adds to the pool. I can take the publisher's questions and modify it to how I want to. So again, that's sort of adding to the pool as well. I hide the question names to hamper Google search. I don't allow hints during the exams. I limit one response only. The first response is the only response in the final response. So if they say they made a mistake, it's like, no, this is just you got one chance. So that's that's all you got. So unlike a homework where you have 4 chances and stuff, and it gives you hints and deduct small points, it's all or nothing for this one. They can't ask me for help. Exams are cumulative. Exams open on a certain date and close on a certain date. I usually give them a week or so. So the questions are not internally timed, so they can open a question, look at it, walk away, come back a day later, 2 days later. So there's not that internal time pressure there, but there's still a global open and close date. And so, so that's how, and this is the stuff that's unmonitored. So I'll put that in there. I allow the students to ask help within their own community who are taking the class right now, but I can't tell if they have talked to somebody from last year or 2 semesters ago. And I say it's open book, open note to open internet and stuff. So that's philosophy 2. Philosophy 3, again, is doing both of them. Having the oversight with HonorLock or ProctorU, plus doing all these other things on the back end to mitigate the cheating. And I think that offers the best integrity, and Tony can probably jump in, because from last week when Tony was talking about his Physics 3 class, I believe he was doing a synchronous version where he was trying to make sure that he does his class on time, like from 9 to 10, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But he was also doing asynchronous, which was he was editing the videos to make it nice, for posterity, and leave it later on for people to download in case they couldn't make it. And so, and he said, it was definitely, taxing, but also, very Herculean feat and very involved in delivering the content for the students. So I applaud him for that. So if you do both methods for an exam, the oversight plus the mitigation, again, that's a lot of work, but that's again something that I think would have the most viability to maintain integrity. And then there's the last one, which is the neither parts. Right? You just don't have time, or you just don't have the equipment, or whatever reason, can't do something really extensive. But you got to do something online right now, like just bam, right now, exam's coming up. Fastest way: upload mass email, PDF file of your exam, and then when the students complete their exam, have them take a photo of it and then send it back to you. Not the best way, but it is a way. So anyways, that's my general outline of how to deal with exams on a variety of levels. Any questions?
And thank you. That was really, really good and comprehensive. I was wondering about one of the things in Mastering Physics. You said you randomize, or you change the words or something, so they get different words. And I have a lot of ESL students, so during exams, I often spend time just walking around telling people what words mean. Not just because, I mean, they know the physics, but they just don't know exactly what this object is that I've described. I have to explain it to them.
All right. Yeah,
Have you had experience with that?
I myself have not, but that is definitely a concern if you have students where English is not the native language. So, words that we take for granted that we know exactly what they mean, other students may see it and like, yeah, I have no idea what this is in this context. So that's definitely a concern. Any other thoughts or questions?
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you all, Corinne, Greg, Andrew.
Oh, I have a question. Could I ask? How do you accommodate time for questions during an exam?
So during the time, for an exam, I basically have one exam that has 20 questions, and those questions aren't internally timed. So a student can open up a question, look at it, walk away, maybe jump to another question, look at it, not work on it, do another question where they feel comfortable with, as long as it is within the 1 week window. So my exam opens at 11:59 on a Saturday, and closes at 11:59 another Saturday. And so that is the only time constraint where they have a global open and a global close date. But for the questions themselves, they can go back and forth. They can look at all the questions and then just decide, I'll do this one on Tuesday and do this one on Wednesday. So I leave that flexibility and freedom up to them when to do the questions on their own.
Okay, what I was thinking about more focused on, no, that was helpful, was what if somebody did have a question about the language in a question? Because occasionally my students will ask, and maybe I'll end up posting something on the whiteboard or whatever. Do you suggest using chat, for example, as an option in Zoom?
So during the exam, my policy is they can't ask me for help. So each question stands on its own. However, they're more than welcome to ask me or contest with me a question after the exam. They have the freedom to do that. It's like, Dr. Drew, this question didn't make sense. I don't think it's fair. And they do that, and I do a review after the fact, like, yes, you're right. That question was worded incorrectly, or I can see, where this mistake might have occurred. So yes, you get the points, or mastering made the correct decision. No adjustments will be made. The final grade stands as it is. So nothing during the exam, but after the exam, plenty of time for discussion afterwards.
What I did in my exam, I used Zoom, and I used the chat box in Zoom. It was a synchronous exam, so I was online monitoring it the entire time. And I plan on using probably the chat box in Canvas in the future. I haven't tried that yet.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else would like to share your experience applying tests this past week?
So I wanted to share an idea, well, two ideas. One has been implemented, and the other one I am going to try next week. No, in a few weeks. So I'll have to report back. So the first one, instead of giving exams, this is a calculus-based mechanics class. But I actually have a lot of students with technology issues. So we've just gone asynchronous. And a lot of them are ESL, or non-native English speakers. So what I have decided to do instead of tests is that they have to create their own problems and then upload their solutions, sort of for every topic or concept I would normally test for. And they have to upload that to our chat board that we're using in our LMS. So that's one way I've gotten around to it. It takes a long time. I was grading this morning and it just takes a long time, but it's harder to cheat with that. And you have to actually understand a concept in order to ask a question sensibly about it.
Wow.
The other thing I'm trying is for a Physics 3 class. So these are, higher level, and it's a smaller group. I'm going to try a communal exam. And what I'm currently thinking is I'm going to ask, there are 14 students, I'm going to ask 15 questions. And it will become a first come, first serve. You upload your answer. You have to upload an answer and check someone else's, is my current thinking. And we'll see how that goes. So.
Could I ask about, I love that idea about having them write their own questions with answers. Have you seen any students sort of, looks like they copied and pasted it from somewhere? Are they looking like they're sticking to what they should be doing?
They are sticking to what they're doing. The biggest issue I've seen so far is that they've just copied the example I have with slightly different numbers. But 10% of the grade for each question is creativity, so they just don't get any creativity points.
Oh, good. That's not, oh, very good.
Actually, Christine, I think that's such an interesting result that it could be for a large or a significant percentage of our classes, that might be the best they can do at finding a class that is a question that is similar to something they've seen before, is to just change numbers.
Right, and I think that, that says something about their level of understanding, right? So I figured that was a good way to assess without all these issues of proctoring and, is it open book, closed book? How do I prevent this or that? And we'll see how it goes. The first few were fairly well done. I think level of, or the quality is going to drop off with time. And I think with that class too, it helps in a way that it's been stacked. So I've been following a spiral method where we visit all the concepts in 1D, and then we do it again in 2D, and then we do it again in a rotational frame. So they've been exposed to the ideas, but now, can they do momentum in 2D, for instance? Can they deal with work if something's on an incline? So it's a little easier to gauge level of understanding because I already know where they were in the general understanding of each concept. And not to say that they can't improve on that understanding, but I kind of know their starting point. So if there's suddenly this amazingly complex problem, then that's going to throw up red flags. So.
Hi, everyone. Let me just interrupt quickly. You can continue asking questions. We're just going to launch a poll about our future meeting. What is the best time for us to meet again on a Friday? So vote. What is the best time for you? Okay, carry on. Any more questions for any of our speakers, or would you like to share more? We are in the last minutes. It's almost 4 o'clock.
Is this Eastern time or Central? Oh, okay. Is there any later time possible than 1 to 2? Yeah. Because that's, I have class on both of these, so I.
All right, we can consider. I didn't put anything else.
Would you say what time zone it was, or were these automatically set for our time zones?
But, yeah.
All right. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the same thing I can see, but I wrote the time zones in each question.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay, so each option has the equivalent time zones. Like, I don't know if you can see all of it written. I edited with all of the other options.
Could I get my poll back?
Click on polling at the bottom. Slide your cursor to the bottom and the polling should appear.
Screen share reactions? Yeah.
It's interesting. That doesn't show up on a tablet. I'm using a tablet and I don't have that option here.
Either.
You don't see the poll at all on the tablet?
I see it when you post it the first time, but then when it goes away, once I submit.
You have to bring it back.
Yeah, I can't bring it back now. Maybe because I already answered. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Earlier there was a link up to here that said poll something, but I think that's when you were sharing the results. But otherwise, no, I don't see that option on the tablet.
When I was sharing the screen, maybe.
Yeah. When you share the screen, I see it.
Yeah. Okay, 24 people have voted. No, nobody else. I know. All right. I know someone asked me for the later time, so I'm gonna end this poll. I don't know. Let's see. Nobody else? End poll. Share results. Okay. I don't know. It looks like 3 to 4 p.m. exactly what we are doing now got most of the votes.
3 to 4. It looks like
3 to 4 for Eastern time. I mean,
oh, okay. I'll be late again. Don't worry.
It's the second option. The second option looks like got 45% of the votes. I know it's hard to please everyone, so we're going to continue like this, and maybe in a few weeks we ask again, and we try something else. Also, what we are going to try to do in the future is, and hopefully you guys like that idea, is to have different hosts to give different spins to these meetings. And I already got in touch with Kendra Siversen. She's not here. I don't think Kendra is here right now. Kendra, are you here right now? I don't think so. But Kendra is very interested on the acquisition of data via using cell phones, and all the didactic material building up around cell phones so that students can do a lot of labs at home. And so there's going to be the focus of our next meeting, and Kendra will be the host. I'll be here too, but Kendra will be the host. And I'm looking forward to volunteers for people who would like to host future meetings and what kind of spin, what kind of theme they would like to focus on. It doesn't need to be only about the theme. As long as people don't have any more to volunteer about it, then we can change and we can discuss other things. There's always more to share and talk about, but I think it's a good idea to give little themes from now on. So if you would like to be hosts in the future, send me an email and we can start scheduling these things. So next week's labs, and especially with cell phones.
Glenda,
yes?
I got a question.
Yes.
Are these meetings recorded?
This is being recorded, and I post the, so let me, share my screen. Yes, these meetings are being recorded. I guess they didn't see that one coming. Someone shared the screen there. It wasn't me. I'm gonna share my screen right now. Yes, this is being recorded. So you go here to our CPTUAC website, okay? And you have the option to join us. Many people have been joining recently, more people on our email list. So you go here, resources, and there are a few extra resources I added. But here is about our meetings. So you gotta click here, link to resources shared during the online meetings. This is what we talked about on March 20th, our first meeting. This is the recording of the Zoom meeting. You can watch it again. And our survey. On March 27 again, you have the recording and lots of links and things that were shared. You're going to see the same thing posted here in a few hours. Okay.
Glenda, I've been trying to get to that. I think you've been posting a link to that in the emails you send out, but whenever I click on it, it says I don't have access.
Oh, interesting. Okay, you don't have access to this site. So on the emails I send, you have the URL to this. right? So under my name, you got this URL for this page. That's the page of the committee. Hopefully you're getting to this. And then can you try this for me right now and check if anybody can verify that for me? And click here, link to the resource. And, nope. I will check again, but nobody had said that to me before. So good to know.
Maybe
Linda,
maybe
can
it's
you
just me.
copy paste that URL into the chat group?
I will copy and paste the URL under the chat room. Yes.
Yeah, let me try it now.
And the chat room has disappeared for me. Oh boy, where is my chat room? I lost the chat.
On the bottom of the screen, if you hover over the video, you should be able to get to it at the bottom of the screen, at least on mine.
Yeah, my screen bottom
Control
more.
as well.
My chat. Appeared. Yay! It was hidden. And da-da-dum, da-da-dum. Okay, let me kill this last part. Let's see. Can we try? Yeah, it's bad. It's good.
I haven't gotten the link.
Oh my goodness. Nope. It looks like I'm sending privately to man, always something. All right.
There we go.
Got it.
All right, guys. So that's it. We had 34 participants at the peak. And I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to our next Friday meeting.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Glenda, for putting this together.
Yes, thank you, Glenda.
Thank you so much.
Glenda.
Hey, Glenda, don't go away. I have another issue with that.
Oh,
Hold on one second.
Sure.
Let me share my. Let me see if I can share my screen here.
Okay, let me get out of sharing my screen so that I don't kick you out. Because there's sometimes some restrictions. All right, you're free.
So this is what I'm getting. We are sorry, but you don't have access. Please contact your organization administrator.
That really is bad. Can you delete the last words here in that link and go to just where it says com? Do you see the link at the top? Okay. Wait.
I'm trying to get back to. I've lost. Oh, I'm still sharing. That's probably why. Sorry. There we go. And so you want me to?
Wow.
What do you want me to chop off of that?
Does anybody else have had problem accessing their website? Did anybody else? No, you're fine. So there's
I'm fine.
Going on
I'm
there.
fine.
Interesting. Okay.
It's probably my school.
Theodore, can you copy and paste into the chat room what you put into your URL? I wonder if it's an HTTPS issue.
What I put into my. I just copied what was in the chat room and pasted into.
Just to humor me, can you paste it back into the chat room? So go directly into your URL box. And,
oh, with the one that has the error?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you copy paste? Can't you just click on it within the chat room? Because I clicked on it and it went directly to the website.
Let me try a different browser. Right?
Were you using Internet Explorer? I hate it.
No, I've been using Chrome. Maybe I'll try Firefox.
Oh, I have had issues with Internet Explorer and Blackboard in my.
I used Chrome, but I couldn't click on it. But when I pasted, it showed up, so it should be okay with Chrome too. I think
it works. It works when I do it in Firefox for some reason. Okay, I'll just have to bookmark it over here. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Good. Okay, one last problem. Yeah, any other comments, questions, suggestions for the future?
I have to think about it, but I'm sure there will be issues coming up soon.
Yeah.
So Glenda, this was really nice. It might be nice to have a repeat of tests and exams as a topic in about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Just to see what we've all learned in those 4 weeks.
You know what I was thinking too is eventually we need to have one about what's coming, which is the summer, because our schools are all being forced to do fully online. So there is no option about being synchronously or asynchronously. They have to be asynchronously. It's fully online in the summer.
Oh.
So even with your labs, they're going to let you do the labs online and everything?
Yep.
All online, and now they want us to be asynchronous. So this is what's coming, and although I, as full-time faculty, I really opted not to teach in the summer. I give a lot of resources to the other adjuncts, so I'm involved, and I don't know, yeah.
So Glenda, don't you have some transfer issues if the college decides to do labs really voluntarily online? Don't you have any transfer issues?
We are part of the State of New York University SUNY system, and the whole SUNY system is doing that. So transfer issues are fine within the SUNY system. Outside of the SUNY system, who knows? But inside the SUNY system, it's what's established. We are all being forced to do that.
And we had in Illinois, I'm on the IAI committee, the Illinois Articulation Initiative, and there's another group called ICCBM, which I'm not too familiar with, but they've approved us for this spring semester to do the labs online, and it looks like they're going to do it for the summer too.
And it's just started since yesterday night reading more about the IO labs, and I just saw their website. They say they are not doing any more IO lab kits because of the COVID, but you can buy the sensor separately. You can buy, we wanted the whole package, right? So to start something, if it was the case, to invest on it. So yeah, we are now desperately already thinking, I mean, there's our problem, how to remediate until the end of the semester, but then there's a long-term solution we need to think of already for the summer.
For the first semesters for mechanics, I played a little bit with Pivot Interactives, and it's actually pretty nice. I mean, they have a nice collection of labs for first semester. Second semester, not enough, so I'm not going to go with it. But the first one, I think it's viable as an option, and it has a lot of features that I think. I mean, it's real video, it's not simulation, so it's kind of interesting.
So I just signed up for Pivot Interactives, and we bought some seats for our students. It's not complete, you're right, for the part 2, electricity and magnetism, but it has like magnetic field labs, force on magnets, induction. It has videos, so it's nice, and the graphing is done on it. So I wish they had more, but that I think that it's a good option that I'm considering too. I've already put seats for the next 3 labs.
You know, I explored Pivot a little bit more in this past days too. I'm going to use one of their thermodynamics, the specific heat lab, because thermodynamics is so hard. I'm going to use one of those. There's very little things. But boy, I was just brainstorming with my husband, who's also professor of physics and astronomy for your institution here. And this is the opportunity. We were thinking, like, why don't we have a lot of these traditional labs already recorded? Why don't, there's here and there. And Pivot is the thing that is doing the most close to, I guess, what I was thinking and referring to. Sort of, you're doing the lab. Pasco also has some of those, that you're doing the lab together with the student, and now here is, or collect from the video, or here's the data table. But you really need it. It would be like a grant where you have a lot of cameras, people with good cameras and know how to edit and record things to do all this for the country. This is not just one school or institution anyway.
Well, for instance, I was looking at a Pivot. I was trying to do the RC lab because that was next on my list for my second semester. And unfortunately, they're using analog meters. We don't use that anymore.
Okay, so we do
meters with actual numbers. My students were thrown off because they had to read those little fine. I've done it a long time ago. I don't like it anymore.
Did you take a look at the one I posted? I posted a little bit, modesty apart. It's very simple, but I just had a cell phone timing and the multimeter across the digital multimeter, across the capacitor, across the resistor.
I think I saw it in an email, but I didn't spend time with it, so I'll go back to it.
Just look at, so the students watch the video and they have to just collect the data, and I have the instructions, and
Yeah.
and then I do that again with the oscilloscope, and we discuss again the average that multimeters do, and also the fact that the capacitor is bleeding all the time, and then with the oscilloscope we use a smaller capacitor, so also the data gets better, so they see the differences.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glenda, thank you very much. I uploaded your video to Port, and so it's very nice. The data is very nice to record. So, and I went over that during our meeting, and I told, of course, I mentioned your name and gave them credit. This is what they're gonna do, and so I'm gonna let you know how it turns out. But helpful, it came in at the right time for me for our circuit. It was easier to record the data, so you can time it 10, 15 seconds. So I wish we had a lot of those kinds. So, and I ran it myself, got data, and came out good. I liked it. So very good. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I also shared the Excel spreadsheet, which is data I collected. I also tested. So yeah. But yeah, so Maggie had shared the one about charge mass ratio, and we just went over, and she discovered the issue, and I think we are ready to share with a lot of people that too. So that'll be good. Yeah.
Great.
So if we can, and Faruzan was working on her labs, and she's going to share that too eventually. She said, wait. So we're waiting. Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Good week.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Keep loading.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care, Karim.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
So I have a question for